Always happy to have him on the show. BYU Athletic Director Tom Holmoe. Tom, how much influence do you have on which cardboard cutouts earn a seat in LaVell Edwards Stadium for games with no fans?
None. I'm just hoping I can get into the stadium tonight. I hope I have the proper credential.
I would hope so. Gosh. Yeah, and we're taking a look at these. These are nice. I know a lot of True Blue heroes were added. Some of the fans, and they'll be continued to be added, which is great. But, Tom, let's talk about the news at hand. Boise State yesterday added to the schedule November 7th. San Diego State on December 12th. This is an upgrade to the schedule. What does it mean to have those two games added?
I think we're very fortunate. Sometimes, you know, the providence and the luck and four-leaf clovers and everything, where the Mountain West Conference is a regional league for us, and it's nice to be able to have those games as non-conference games, you know, year in and year out as an independent. But in a year like 2020 with COVID, and they're not there, and we have to go far and wide to find teams, and then to have them come back, and then you know they're going to go conference only. But it was just such a blessing to have these little caveats where Boise and San Diego just happen to be available, and we're able to squeeze them in. It's beautiful. I love it.
How long were you in conversations and discussions with Boise State and San Diego State before these things actually became a reality?
Not long. Things are moving at the speed of sound right now. And when there's a cancellation anywhere, as you saw, I can't remember the exact teams, but it was about 2 weeks ago, 2 teams got canceled on, and then they tried to put a game together in a week where they play each other. And that's what's happening. And I think I've said it before, that good for them. If they're going to try to get their guys to play games against each other and you can make it work. Now, they couldn't make it work, but they tried. And we're very, very fortunate that the Mountain West Conference was able and willing. They could have easily just said, no, we're not going to do that. But it made sense for them, for the conference, and for Boise, and for San Diego State, and it allowed some real intricacies with the Air Force Academy. So kudos to the Mountain West Conference for making this happen.
Boise State ends up on the same weekend it would have been originally, just a day later, which is interesting. And then December 12th with San Diego State in Provo. That's going to be a cold one, but one that where this regular season extends out. That'll be the latest regular season game in BYU history, by the way. So what went into the dates on those two?
Well, first of all, with the Boise State game, that happened to be the weekend that Air Force was playing Army. And I've said this before, that I think it's kind of a really cool thing in our country that the service academies are going to play if they can at all. And I heard earlier on this season, about 3 months ago, that if every school, every conference in the country shut down, Army was going to play Navy. Period. It was really seriously at one point in time. It was going to be the one college football game that was going to be played regardless. They might have had to play it on an aircraft carrier, but it was going to be played. And I think that's really, I just like the feel of that. It didn't come down to that, but the thought that those two great schools, and then Navy, you throw our Air Force into that. And so because there's an even number of schools in the Mountain West Conference, when Air Force goes out to play Army, it leaves one team with a bye or an open date. And that's where the Mountain West Conference was able to slide us in.
BYU Athletic Director Tom Holmoe with us on BYU Sports Nation.
Yeah, and then December 12th is an interesting date for San Diego State as well in the extended season here. Was playing in San Diego ever an option, or did you want to fulfill that in Provo, since that was a game that was scheduled originally as well here at home?
Yeah, that's accurate, Jerem. It would have maybe made more sense to do it in San Diego because of the weather possibilities, but the games that were postponed this year on a regular, normal 2020 schedule, we're making those up, and they're going to be played, but you're talking about anywhere from 2025 to 2030, 31. And so to take a Boise State game and a San Diego State game and have to play those way down the road, it was complicated. So to be able to, have them on the schedule, haven't been played, but they're on the schedule. It does a lot for us to be able to just get back to some normalcy with scheduling.
Tom, 10 games scheduled. Army is still kind of floating out there. What is the possibility of rescheduling with the Black Knights, let's say on November 28th?
That's a great question. Anything is possible. Whether it's going to happen or not, it's just way too early to tell. We've been in conversations because we'd like to do it, but there's so many what ifs, or we have to be able to have that crystal ball. We can plan, and I think the key thing is there are contingencies, and I think conferences are figuring out now. They've left some open dates. We'll probably have to see that happen, and I'd love to see it. And we'll just have to see. I wouldn't hold my breath on it, but I think that if it can happen, it will happen.
How late can the season go? We don't know with bowl games kind of the situation, but is December 12th the last date of a regular season game, or could you play a regular season game on the 19th with someone who's not in a title game that week?
You know, I really don't know the answer to that. I thought December 5th was going to be the last regular season game, and we wouldn't probably play a home game on December 12th, or excuse me, December 5th. But it's predicated, Jerem, on the conference championship games. Could you play a game after a conference championship game if you weren't moving on? I don't know. Anything goes this year. So I don't think that looks practical. And I would say that December 12th would more than likely be our last regular season game.
Tom Holmoe with us on BYU Sports Nation. Tom, is it your intention and desire to schedule and play 12 games?
I think initially that would have been the dream. And then realistically, I was hoping we could get 3 or 4. I never wanted to say that. I didn't want to come out of my house. But look, it's a humbling experience for us in college football to be playing. And look, we have whatever the number of games that's scheduled now. They're scheduled. I think right now the focus for me is trying to play the games. And there's so much that's going into playing the games. I think there's a lot more respect for the COVID virus amongst athletic leagues and teams and coaches and players now, because before there was just such an unknown. Now it's real. You see, individuals being positive. You see various effects. You see cancellations. You see these incredible testing protocols, and it's got everybody's attention in college athletics right now. And you're going to see changes in protocol. You're going to see changes in testing, and you'll see some changes in scheduling that adapt to all these new nuances.
There are 3 open dates still on the schedule in theory, to Spencer's point about perhaps getting a 12th game scheduled on November 14th, the 28th, and December 5th. Are you passively looking at adding, aggressively, or not at all with those 3?
Good choices. I'm not sure what the adjective would be, but I would say my number's out there. Everybody knows my number. And I call around when I see little cracks in a schedule somewhere down the road. We talk a lot. There's a lot of conversations that take place that lead to nowhere, but it's possible. And so I don't know, Jordan, it's a very good question. To have those open dates, they're there for a reason. In a regularly scheduled season, you wouldn't have opens. They're called buys. There's no such thing as a buy now. It's an open week that you could possibly play, either a makeup game or a slide-in new game. So it's all new.
Does your patience in waiting with one game in November until literally yesterday, do you feel validated with this in that you were able to get 2 quality games in November when originally, when the schedule came out, it was like, we kept saying, it's so obvious that BYU is going to add something in November. We don't know what. And then Craig Thompson says, hey, Boise State's a possibility. You go, okay, wow. Do you feel validated in the patience you had to get good games in November?
No, not really. I mean, I just think that Kalani and I had a good attitude about it. And we got together a lot in the early days when we didn't have any games. And I tried to explain to him what the scenarios look like: good, bad, and ugly. And he knew it. And so just he would talk to his staff and give me feedback about his team. And then we would slowly start to add the games. And it's like I'm saying, it's not anything about other than giving these kids an opportunity to play. And they've been so grateful. I love this team. You know, every time they play a game, we play 2 now. When the game's over, I just like say a prayer. I'm just so grateful that these kids can play. And then we just turn one page. We don't start looking at the future chapters. We turn a page because there's going to be a COVID test the next day. And I'm serious. That's Kalani and I, we look to the next day, and I have a little bit of a periscope out to the future, and we're trying. But look, to make it sound like I have any kind of strategy, you're giving me more credit than I deserve. It's just mainly about connections and about people trying. And anytime if someone's going to shed it on me, I'm going to say, thank you, Mountain West. Thank you, Army. Thank you, Navy. Thank you. I could say that to 100 people, and some of them are people that I've talked to that we're not going to play. Thank you, Greg Byrne at Alabama, for talking with me on 12 phone calls that didn't end up in anything. But you know what? Right now we look at each other and go, we're smiling and going, hey, we're playing. You got a good team, Greg. Hey, you're playing good games, Tom. And I think that there's some kind of camaraderie and there's some beauty in the college athletic part of it that we haven't really examined in recent years. I think COVID brings out some tough situations, but there's some real beautiful things that come out of it. And that's what Kalani and I are trying to do is make some beauty out of the ashes.
The man with the most expensive phone bill at BYU, Tom Holmoe, is with us on BYU Sports Nation. Hey, let's talk about your team, Tom, because, ranked 22nd. All the conferences are back in, so it feels like a legit poll now. They're trying to get to 3-0 for the first time since 2014. Do you like the hype? Do you prefer this type of hype for your team after just 2 games?
First of all, you called it my team. This is our team, baby. This is our team, and I've never felt it more. It's funny. There's nobody in the stands, and I've never felt like this is more our team, Cougar Nation. It's another one of the positives about this season. But I'm going to answer that question, and I need to keep a focus on this. Like, look, as you and I, the 3 of us talk a lot. This is our business. This is our game. We look way, way deeper, but we're fans. You know, when I see you guys after games and we have a big win, we're high-fiving and jumping in the air and dislocating my shoulder on you. We have fun. We have fun with it because we're fans. But so I try not to get too wound up because we have a lot of responsibilities to keep grounded, and especially now. Hey, look, the players love to play. They love the attention. But, sometimes BYU teams are not great in adversity. I think our teams are really good in adversity, but sometimes we stumble in prosperity. And if there's any message that I would like to say right now is keep your eye on the prize. We have Louisiana Tech tonight, and look at the adversity. Our guys have played through, they've gone through more than most teams have had to go through. Let's face it. But with all the hype around it right now, because of you guys, which I love, but I just hope that our guys realize this is a season of adversity. And if you can fight your way through the adversity, beautiful things are going to end up at the end of the road. But it's not going to be there if you stumble and fall because there's so much prosperity.
Okay, we'll mention the New Year's Six only 4 out of 5 days a week. Okay, is that okay?
We'll slow it down.
Okay, let's talk about fans in the stands. Obviously, the state of Utah will govern this or not. This is the last game with no fans for now. Then we'll look to hear what the state of Utah wants to do. When will that be figured out for next Saturday's game?
Next week, because they'll have to start doing that, preparing for the game. And so we base it on the governors, which will be midweek sometime, early in the week. But we also have to be able to start to make those tickets available. So it's a little bit of an intricate situation of waiting patiently with how the governor and the committees, the health departments and BYU get together and work through that. But that will be something that we'll handle after this game. And we all are hoping. We've built various scenarios where we'd have no fans, some fans, and quite a few fans. I mean, hopefully, we're hoping for the best, and we'll do what they allow us to do.
Having a great conversation with BYU Athletic Director Tom Holmoe on BYU Sports Nation.
When did you dislocate a shoulder, by the way? That was news to me. Jeez.
Well, take it easy. I have been lifting. Sorry about that, Tom. I hope you're feeling okay. Let's discuss the goal or the number of fans that you would like to have in the stands at some point this season. Is there a target mark out there? Because I know that 6,000 were going to be in the stadium for the first game. That didn't happen, obviously. So is there a target that you are hoping for or aiming for still?
More. I seriously, I think that the collaboration of all the people that are working on putting fans in the stands comes down to, and the only way I can describe it is scenarios where we have to be prepared for the various ones. I mean, as I look at your background right there, the best case scenario is to fill it up. I mean, snowflakes falling on December 12th with a packed house against San Diego State. I'm a dreamer. Let's go. That's how I see that stadium. But that's a scenario. It's a big, hairy, audacious goal. But realistically, for the next game against University of Texas San Antonio, we're looking at none. And then 6,000, which was the original agreed upon. And then there's another scenario. And so could we get to the plan C? I hope so. I really do. But I think the most realistic one is get people in the stands and start off with people in the stands, no matter what that number is.
Yeah, having at least 6 next week would be incredible. What's being done with the program now, Tom, after the Army game was postponed due to some COVID issues, to avoid that situation the rest of the year, if possible?
Really just shoring up the protocols, learning more about the research that's going on across the country. This is work in progress. And I think everybody knows that. It's very frustrating for everyone to not quite understand all the details of quarantine, isolation, contact tracing. I think I should get an honorary PhD in epidemiology by the end of this season. I don't want one, but I'm learning way more than I ever dreamt I'd want to know about that field. But we all know that we're doing everything we can. And I think our medical crew has been exemplary in setting a protocol from scratch. We didn't really know where to go. We had some assistance from the NCAA and Dr. Brian Hainline, but as we've gone, we've adapted based on best practices of the professional groups, professional leagues, of international leagues, of collegiate conferences. And there's great collaboration amongst the medical staffs and training staffs in college athletics. We're learning from these postponements that other people have. People may have learned from our postponement because it was an early one with Army. And so we're doing the best we can. And I think that even though you're still hearing of postponements, I really honestly think that we've done enough. Now I'm talking association-wise, where we've probably held off some postponements based on increased levels of knowledge and application with testing and safety.
Tom, I think it goes without saying you and the athletic department at BYU have done nothing short of miraculous to make all this happen. It's just been a wild ride, and I can't tell you how excited we are to be in the stadium for a third game in early October. You say you're a dreamer. We were dreaming and hoping that this would be the case, and we're here.
You can say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, John. Hey, look, we are all in this together. And I said it before on Cougar Nation. And part of it is the local chapter of Cougar Nation it's about getting into the stands, or if you can travel to get to. Not every Cougar Nation member can get into the stands, but they're watching on TV, they're listening to Sports Nation, they're following somehow, some way. But the reality right now for next week is everybody's got to chip in. You got to wear your mask. You got to wear your mask, and you got to still keep social distance. And even though people are saying, nah, yeah. And that's one of the things that's helped is you cannot go to an athletic facility now and see people being sheepish about it. It's just part of a daily life right now. But there's a lot of people in this community right now, obviously looking at the numbers, that are not buying it. And we need, if you're a Cougar fan, do your part. Do your part. Because our players are begging for everyone that wants to get in this stadium to do your part. And I'm telling you, when we let people in the stadium, it's going to be very disciplined. We're not going to let people come in here without masks, and we'll do the social distancing, and we'll do the things that at that date in time that the health department asks us to do and mandates it for us to happen. And if we do that, it allows us to turn the page and go on to the next day.
Tom, so great to catch up with you. Let's give you some BYU Sports Nation karma to survive the madness of the coming weeks and scheduling, and look forward to seeing you around, masked up and socially distanced.
Cool. I like your attitude, guys. Thanks so much for helping push us along.